Home alone downstairs watching TV, and the doorbell rings, and it was a Vancouver City police officer, and she was asking if Ray Salmon is home. I said, well, what is it? What's wrong? Why are you asking me this? And she said she didn't have any information, and I couldn't contact Ray, even though he had a cell phone. There wasn't any cell phone coverage at Harrison Lake. I think I phoned the RCMP at about 5 in the morning, and they were very brief. They never gave me any details at the time. They just said he's missing. So I didn't know if he was walking with the dog somewhere and didn't make it back. And as he said to me, if you're injured, if you're in the woods and you're injured, you wait for them to come to you. Don't start trying to crawl around, wasting energy if you can't. They will come and they will look for you. And I thought, okay, I know what's happened now.
A call came in about going out to search for a possible missing person at this spot. The team knew I had a lot of experience in this area, so I was one of the first team members to arrive at that scene that day. When we showed up, his truck and camper were right at this very spot. All his belongings were kind of laid out under the tarp. His truck and camper looked in great shape.
The RCMP goes up, they find the truck and the camper locked. Dogs inside, 2 dogs, and nobody's around. If Ray went out for a hike, would he take the dogs?
Definitely.
So he wouldn't leave them in there?
Never leave the dogs. He thought this is what he's got the dogs for.
So in your mind, why would he lock the camper door?
Unless there was a danger to the dogs, but what kind of danger would be there to the dogs?
It was the strangest thing. I've never showed up to a search where we had full ERT members, and there was guys with fully automatic weapons, and I remember it very specifically because I've never showed up to a search where we're searching alongside our emergency response team members.
I was with the RCMP for 31 years, and back here, where I'm from, in the Fraser Valley, I was here for 22 years.
Are you familiar with the Ray Salmon disappearance on Harrison Lake?
Yes.
So on a disappearance of a missing person case, can you fathom in your own mind why they would send out an RCMP SWAT team?
For the unanswered questions, are we looking at someone who got murdered? Are we looking at somebody who got kidnapped? Or they may have a tip that nobody knows about, I don't know about, top secret kind of stuff.
I remember an officer telling me kids showed up at the Agassiz RCMP detachment saying that their vehicle was shot at. And I remember later talking to the RCMP officer saying that kids reported their headlights being shot out.
If he shot out somebody's headlights, and he was that good of a shot to shoot out the headlights, then he was probably trying to get attention to where he was.
I don't know if I would shoot at someone's car to get attention, because what's going in my mind is, oh my God, what if I accidentally hit someone?
Now, we know Ray was a responsible hunter, had a license to have his guns, had hunted for decades. So yeah, I'm with you. I believe that is very strange behavior.
I remember thinking, well, that wouldn't have been Ray. Ray wouldn't be shooting. If he did anything, as he told me, you shoot 3 times in the air for SOS. Now there's more to this story than just Ray missing, but not knowing what.
Right directly behind him was the grad party. So the party was happening up over here. There was estimated to be about 50 people at that party, and there was a massive amount of garbage we cleaned up when we got here.
And they didn't consider that possible evidence as well?
Something seemed wrong at that point. When
you hear the search and rescue person's rendition of what just happened, I don't think in 7,000 cases that I've ever heard anything so strange as telling a search and rescue group to go pick up a grad party's remains of what they left, and then coupled with the fact that there were shots fired at the scene, and they bring in a special weapons team to the area. But that wasn't it. The more you hear, the stranger the story gets.
We would hike for a couple hours in here and start grid searching, and we would just basically come back to this point and then go again. Then we also got on ATVs, and so we had boats. We had 2 watercraft in the lake at that time, searching the shoreline, air support as well.
And I remember when I first talked to you, you said you were told not to go into the bush?
On the second day, his belongings were found by air. They spotted his clothes. Now this is a day, if not 2 days after the initial search.
It wasn't even probably an hour or two after that. I remember the corporal, the RCMP members, still in uniform, coming out of the bush saying it's unsearchable. We found his clothes. It's not worth it to go in there.
It's so clear because I was like, nothing is unsearchable. Why would they all of a sudden just call it that quickly?
I asked Adam to show me the location where Ray's clothes were found. Strangely, there was even a worn-out search and rescue tag on a tree.
This is where his clothes were probably most likely found. It's very old. It would be from that time period.
The search uncovered, via helicopter, some folded items under a log in his rifle 400 yards north of his truck, right on the beach. And then over a small hill, quite a distance away, they found his pistol laying in a meadow.
They would give me bits and pieces. They would call and they would say, oh, we found Ray's backpack under a tree. And then later on, they told me somewhere in a field they found his 9mm. And I thought, Ray would never leave a pistol anywhere.
So you're into it a few days. They found these items. I read that it was the feeling of the RCMP that he must be in the water. Is that true?
As they were saying, oh, we think he must have drowned. And I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. His boat is at the campsite, so he wouldn't have fallen off the boat. And if he was on the boat, he would have had his life jacket on.
The official report says he was injured and got into the water and was trying to swim back, and that's how he drowned. But it was hard to believe.
If anybody said, well, he was stripping his clothes because he had hypothermia.
It wasn't raining, and it was June. It was warm, and I was even up at 6,000 feet elevation, and I was in a t-shirt sweating.
They never found any traces of any blood, animal or human. They even said it was unusual that they had that many tracking dogs. I never found a track.
Or a scent.
Or a scent.
That's an important point. When you go from the point of the pistol, from the camper, to the beach, there you have an established area to start from, to go to. It's not like you're going blindly at this point. So the dogs should have been able to track Ray point to point to point pretty easily, and they didn't. The RCMP had a search boat combing the shoreline. Ray's wife also hired a private response team to come in and also search the area. No body was ever recovered. So Daniela went out with the search boat and actually spent hours on scene looking for her husband.
I had arranged with the Ralstons to come down and search for Ray.
Daniela told us from the beginning that she thought that the RCMP was pushing this probability that Ray was in the water. And talking to search and rescue people, they didn't necessarily believe Ray was in the water. And I'm not sure if you guys were aware, but they found his pistol on top of a mountain, not even anywhere near the water. And Daniela said there's no way Ray would lose his pistol.
Yeah.
Had you heard that?
We hadn't heard that, no.
So it was interesting. Initially, I don't think they wanted to give me back his guns and rifles.
How about the backpack?
No, I didn't get that back.
Don't you think that's odd?
They weren't there to explain themselves to me.
Ever be a reason to lie to the victim family?
No. Not from police, no.
Ever?
No, never.
It became blatantly obvious that the RCMP was withholding information from Daniela. Files obtained through the Freedom of Information Act turned up blacked out paragraphs. I've encountered similar issues through the Freedom of Information Act and the release of details. Some of the off-the-record interviews that we were doing alluded to a connection to some of the local legends and bizarre sightings within this area.
People that go missing or these things that happen that don't quite make sense, it happens in an area where a lot of time there's gold or there's a history, there's a legacy, there's legends, there's stories of past occurrences. There's a reason why they're called sky ancestors.
We heard that the RCMP has a policy about UFOs.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
If you get involved with a UFO investigation, it is you hand that information over. I don't know where it goes.
So somebody somewhere
Yeah.
is collecting and tracking this information.
I would say so, yes. You have to.